The morning bell rang through Ridgewood High, a school where cars in the parking lot cost more than most families' yearly rent. The hallways buzzed with the usual teenage noise laughter, gossip, sneaker squeaks, echoing across polished floors. Among the crowd, Ethan Cole walked with the casual arrogance of someone born into money. His designer backpack slung over one shoulder, gold chain glinting under the fluorescent light, he was the kind of student teachers smiled at, and other kids either envied or feared. His father owned half the dealerships in town, a man everyone knew, mostly because he liked making sure everyone knew. At the far end of the hall, Liam Carter was closing his locker carefully. His clothes were plain, a little faded but clean. He didn't talk much. He didn't have the newest phone or the flashiest shoes. Everyone knew his dad worked as the school janitor, and that fact followed him like a shadow he didn't ask for. Ethan spotted him immediately, smirking. "Hey, Carter!" he called out, loud enough for half the hallway to hear. "You polish your dad's mop before school today, or do you wait till after?" Laughter burst from a few nearby students, the kind of laughter that always hurts more than the words themselves. Liam froze, clutching the strap of his backpack tighter. His face flushed, but he said nothing. His silence only made Ethan grin wider. "What's wrong?" Ethan continued, stepping closer. "Don't go quiet on me now. Oh, wait, I forgot. You're probably saving your voice for cleaning duty tonight, huh?" More laughter. Someone even recorded it on their phone. Liam finally looked up, meeting Ethan's smug eyes. His voice was quiet but steady. "You think what your dad does makes you better than everyone else?" Ethan tilted his head, pretending to think. "Well, yeah, pretty much." He grinned again. "You should try it sometime, being somebody." Before Liam could respond, the warning bell rang. The crowd dispersed, whispering and laughing as they went. Ethan walked off, satisfied, leaving Liam standing alone in the hallway. Liam took a deep breath, forcing his hands to stay still. He could hear his dad's voice in his head, calm, patient. People's words only define them, not you. He swallowed hard and headed for class, eyes fixed on the floor. He didn't want revenge. He just wanted to prove that dignity wasn't something you could buy. As he passed the janitor's closet, he caught a glimpse of his father inside, sweeping, humming softly, smiling despite the mess. For a moment, Liam's chest tightened with pride and shame mixed together. He whispered under his breath, "One day they'll know who you really are, Dad." He didn't know how true that would soon become, because career day was coming, and so was the truth. The next day, the cafeteria buzzed with noise, trays clattering, laughter bouncing off the walls, and the smell of pizza, mixing with cheap cologne and teenage ego. Ethan sat at his usual table in the center, surrounded by his friends, his sneakers propped up on an empty chair. He was in full performance mode, talking loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Across the room, Liam sat at the far end alone, eating quietly with his head down. He didn't mind being by himself. He was used to it. Still, every laugh that came from Ethan's table felt like a reminder of his place in this unspoken hierarchy. "Hey, Carter!" Ethan called out suddenly, waving a fry in the air like a microphone. "You missed a spot on the floor, man. Shouldn't you be mopping while we eat?" The table around him erupted in laughter. One of his friends, Jake, smirked. "Yeah, maybe he's waiting for his dad to clock in." Liam froze mid-bite, his appetite gone. He set down his fork, jaw tight. He wanted to say something, to shout back, but he could already hear his dad's calm voice in his mind again. "Son, don't let anger make you small. Let patience make you strong." So he didn't rise to it. He stood, picked up his tray, and walked past their table without a word. That only made Ethan grin wider. "Oh, come on, man, don't be shy. What, too good to talk to me now?" Liam stopped. For a split second, he considered walking away. But something in him snapped. Not anger, not pride, just quiet resolve. He turned his head slightly, enough for Ethan to hear him clearly. "I'd rather be the son of someone who cleans up after people," he said evenly, "than someone who leaves a mess for others to deal with." The table fell silent for half a second. Then came the laughter again, louder this time, trying to drown out the truth they'd all just heard. Ethan scoffed, embarrassed for a moment, but too arrogant to let it show. "Whatever, man. You talk like that because you'll be doing the same job one day. Guess it runs in the family." That hit deeper than it should have, but Liam didn't flinch. He walked away, shoulders straight, not giving Ethan the satisfaction of a reaction. His silence spoke louder than any insult. At a nearby table, a few students exchanged uneasy looks. Not everyone found it funny anymore. By the time lunch ended, the story had already made its way through the school. Social media posts, whispers in the halls. Ethan roasted the janitor's kid. People laughed, liked, shared. Liam ignored it all. He went home that afternoon, helping his dad fix a leaky sink at the community center. His father didn't ask why he was quiet. He just smiled the same tired, proud smile he always wore. As they worked side by side, Liam looked at his dad, at the lines on his face, the strength in his hands, the way he treated everyone with respect, no matter who they were. And in that quiet moment, Liam made himself a promise. He wasn't going to fight Ethan with words. He was going to win with truth. Career day was coming in 2 days, and by the time it ended, no one, especially Ethan, would ever laugh at his father again. That evening, the sky over Ridgewood shimmered in shades of orange and violet as the sun sank behind the houses. The streets were quiet, except for the hum of lawnmowers and the distant bark of a dog. Inside a small, modest apartment at the edge of town, Liam sat at the kitchen table, his homework spread out beside a half-eaten sandwich. The soft clatter of tools came from the next room, where his father was repairing an old vacuum. The place smelled faintly of coffee and metal polish. It wasn't much, but it was home. Tidy, warm, alive with the quiet rhythm of people who worked hard for everything they had. "Hey, champ," his father called out. "Can you hand me that screwdriver?" Liam grabbed it and walked over. His father, Mark Carter, sat cross-legged on the floor in his worn work uniform, sleeves rolled up, hands steady despite the years of labor etched into them. "Thanks, bud," Mark said, tightening the last screw and setting the vacuum upright. "Good as new." Liam smiled faintly. "You can fix anything," Mark chuckled. "Not everything. Just what people are willing to let me fix." He dusted off his hands and looked at his son. "You've been quiet lately. School okay?" Liam hesitated, staring down at his shoes. "It's fine." Mark didn't buy it. "Well, that's the kind of fine that means it's not fine." Liam sighed. "It's just people at school. They talk. About you." Mark paused, waiting. "They call you the janitor guy. They think it's funny," Liam said quietly, "and they laugh at me for it. I try to ignore it, but it's hard. They act like working hard is something to be ashamed of." Mark leaned back against the wall, his expression calm but serious. He rubbed his hands together slowly before answering. "Son," he said, "you can't stop people from laughing. Some folks think tearing others down makes them taller. But you know what really shows a person's worth?" Liam shook his head. "How they treat people who can't give them anything back," Mark said simply. The words hung in the air, like a truth too big for the room. Mark got up and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "I know it's not easy, but you've got to remember, what I do for a living doesn't define you. It doesn't even define me. What defines us is how we do it." Liam looked up. "You mean working hard?" Mark smiled. "Working hard, staying honest, and never letting anyone make you feel small for it. There's dignity in every job, if you do it with pride." Liam nodded slowly, letting the words sink in. For the first time in days, the knot in his chest began to loosen. Mark went to the fridge and pulled out 2 cans of soda. He tossed one to his son. "You know, when I was your age, I used to think people with nice cars had everything figured out. Then I started fixing things for them, and realized most of them were broken in places no tool could reach." Liam laughed softly. Mark grinned. "Career days this week, right?" Liam groaned. "Yeah, everyone's bringing their parents. Ethan's dad's probably going to roll in with a sports car and a slideshow about his money." Mark shrugged. "Let him. Just remember, respect doesn't come from what you drive. It comes from what you do." Liam looked thoughtful for a moment. "You're not embarrassed to come, right? Because of what you do?" Mark's eyes softened. "Embarrassed? Not even close. Son, I get to keep a whole school clean, safe, and running. You think that's something to hide?" Liam smiled for real this time. "No, sir." Mark clinked his soda can against his. "No, good. Then we'll show up, and we'll do what we always do. Walk in with pride." As the night settled and the lights dimmed, Liam sat at his desk replaying his father's words over and over, each one planted deeper than the last, because deep down, he knew something big was coming. something that would finally show everyone who his father really was. The morning of career day felt different. The entire school buzzed with anticipation. Banners lined the halls, classrooms smelled like fresh paper and coffee, and every student tried to look just a little more important than usual. Parents began to arrive. Sharp suits, designer handbags, shiny watches that caught the light. Expensive cars filled the parking lot, each one trying to outshine the next. The sound of heels clicked down polished hallways like a parade of pride. In room 214, where Mrs. Turner's class gathered, the students were busy setting up chairs for their guests. The air was full of chatter. "My dad's bringing his new Tesla," one girl bragged. "My mom's a corporate lawyer," another added. "She's going to talk about her cases." Ethan leaned back in his chair, smirking. "My dad's going to crush all of them. He runs 3 dealerships, and he's bringing his head of sales, too. We're practically running a mini conference." A few students laughed. They always did when Ethan talked. He had that kind of confidence that made people follow, or at least pretend to. Liam sat quietly in the back, pretending to check his notes, but really just avoiding eye contact. He had pressed his shirt the night before, and his shoes, though old, were spotless. Still, the weight of the moment hung heavy on his shoulders. He could already imagine the whispers. "That's the janitor's son." He tried not to care. His father's words echoed in his head like armor. "Walk in with pride." The first parent presentations began. A doctor talked about saving lives. A marketing executive discussed building your personal brand. A police sergeant described leadership and discipline. Each one got polite applause, some even cheers. Then Ethan's turn came. His father, Greg Cole, strode into the classroom like he owned the place. Expensive suit, confident grin, voice that filled the room without trying. He handed out glossy pamphlets from his car dealerships, talking about success, image, and ambition. Ethan beamed beside him, soaking in every word. "Hard work is for people who don't have vision," Mr. Cole said proudly. "Real success comes from being bold, taking what you want before someone else does." The room filled with impressed murmurs. Mrs. Turner smiled politely, though something in her eyes flickered with discomfort. At the back, Liam listened quietly, his hands clasped. His father's work uniform suddenly felt heavier in his backpack. As the applause died down, Mrs. Turner checked her list. "Next, we have Mark Carter." The room went still. A few heads turned, whispers starting before the door even opened. Ethan leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Oh boy, this should be good." The door creaked open. Liam's father stepped inside, wearing his clean janitor uniform, holding a small toolkit in one hand and a folded blueprint in the other. He smiled politely, not noticing the smirks or the whispers. "Good morning," he said, setting his things down. "I'm Mark Carter. I work here at Ridgewood High." Ethan whispered just loud enough for his friends to hear. "Yeah, we know." Liam's heart pounded, but he kept his eyes on his father. Mark continued, his voice calm and steady. "Most of you probably see me in the halls. I keep the school clean, fix what's broken, and make sure everything works the way it should. But that's not all I do." He unfolded the blueprint and laid it across the desk. The paper was detailed. Precise measurements, wiring paths, engineering notes. "Before I worked here, I spent 15 years in construction and design. I helped build this very school." The room fell quiet. Even Mrs. Turner leaned forward. Mark smiled faintly. "Every beam, every vent, every line of wiring, I helped design it. When I come here every day, I don't just clean this place. I take care of something I built with my own hands." Liam felt his chest swell with pride. Ethan blinked, caught off guard. The grin faded from his face. Mark looked around the room, eyes kind but steady. "So, when you see me sweeping or fixing something, remember, there's honor in every job, as long as it's done with pride. Doesn't matter if you wear a suit or carry a mop." Silence. Real, heavy silence. Then, Mrs. Turner started clapping. The sound spread slowly, then all at once. Liam's throat tightened. For the first time, people weren't looking at him with pity. They were looking at his father with respect. And Ethan? He just sat there, expression stiff, hands motionless. For once in his life, he had no words. When the applause finally faded, the room stayed quiet in a way it never had before. The sound of respect, not noise, not laughter, Just stillness. Mark Carter rolled up his blueprint, smiling humbly. "Thank you for listening," he said simply, nodding toward Mrs. Turner. "That was incredible, Mr. Carter," she said warmly. "I don't think many of us knew just how much you've done for this school." Mark shrugged lightly. "Most people don't need to know. They just need a place that works. My job's to make sure they have it." The class erupted in genuine applause this time, not out of politeness, but pride. Students who had laughed yesterday clapped harder than anyone. Liam sat still for a moment, watching his father stand at the front of the class. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: pride without apology. His heart beat fast, his hands trembled, but it wasn't from embarrassment anymore. It was relief. His dad didn't need defending. The truth had done it for him. Mrs. Turner smiled. "Would anyone like to ask Mr. Carter a question?" A hand went up in the back, one of the quieter girls in class. "How does it feel," she asked softly, "to know you built the place you work in every day?" Mark thought for a second, then said, "It feels good. Some people dream of leaving a mark. Me, I get to walk through mine every morning." A few kids smiled. Even Mrs. Turner blinked hard, trying not to show she was touched. Then all eyes turned to Ethan. Not because anyone called on him, but because everyone could feel the silence building around him. He sat stiffly, face pale, knuckles tight around his pen. For once, he wasn't smirking. His father, Mr. Cole, cleared his throat. "Well," he said awkwardly, forcing a grin, "that was nice." But the charm in his voice fell flat. No one laughed. No one cared about the man who sold cars anymore. The entire class had seen something more real, more honest, something money couldn't fake. Liam glanced toward Ethan. Their eyes met briefly. There was no gloating in Liam's expression, no satisfaction, just quiet understanding, the kind that said, "Now you know." When the bell rang, students began to file out, some stopping to shake Mark's hand. "Thanks for what you do, sir," one boy said sincerely. Another added, "I didn't realize you helped build this place. That's awesome." Mark thanked them humbly, packing his tools into his worn bag. As the room cleared, Ethan lingered behind, staring at the floor. His father was already on the phone, talking about some urgent deal, barely acknowledging him. Liam stood near the door, watching his dad finish up. He hesitated, then turned to leave, until he heard Ethan's voice behind him. Hey, Carter." Liam turned slowly. Ethan wasn't smirking anymore. He looked uncomfortable, his usual swagger gone. "Your dad? He's something else," he said quietly. Liam nodded. "Yeah, I know." Ethan hesitated, his throat tightening. "I shouldn't have said all that stuff before. I didn't know." "You didn't have to know," Liam said. "You just had to be decent." The words hit like a weight, but not cruelly, just honest. Ethan nodded once, unable to argue. "Yeah," he muttered. "You're right." Mark approached just then, smiling. "And ready, son?" "Yeah," Liam said, glancing at Ethan one last time. "I'm ready." As they left the classroom together, father and son side by side, Ethan sat back down, staring at the empty chair where Liam had been. For the first time in his life, he realized how small arrogance looked, next to dignity. Outside, the hallway felt brighter. Students smiled at Mark as he passed, and Liam, walking beside him, finally lifted his head high. He didn't need to prove anything anymore. Everyone had already seen the truth. The next morning, Ridgewood High felt unusually calm. No laughter in the halls, no mocking whispers. Something about the air had changed, cleaner, quieter. Liam walked through the front doors, his backpack slung over his shoulder, still feeling the echo of yesterday's pride. Everywhere he went, people greeted him differently now. Not out of pity, but respect. Some smiled, some nodded. Even teachers who rarely noticed him before made small talk, but Liam didn't care about the attention. What mattered most had already happened. His father had walked into that classroom, told the truth, and turned the whole world right side up. As he opened his locker, he heard footsteps behind him. Heavy, hesitant ones. Hey. He turned and saw Ethan standing there, hands shoved deep in his pockets. No audience, no entourage, just him. Liam waited silently. Ethan shifted his weight, avoiding eye contact. I wanted to say something." Liam raised an eyebrow. "You already did. Plenty." Ethan winced. "Yeah, I know. I was a jerk. Worse than that, actually." I said things I thought were funny because I didn't think they mattered. But they did. Liam studied him for a moment. There was no smirk, no smug tone, just discomfort and a trace of honesty. I saw your dad yesterday, Ethan said quietly, and I couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he talked, the way everyone listened. He didn't need to impress anyone, he just was. Liam's jaw softened. Yeah, that's kind of his thing. Ethan nodded slowly. My dad always says you have to be the best. Win everything. But your dad made me realize maybe winning doesn't mean what I thought it did. The hallway was empty now except for the two of them. The sound of lockers clicking in the distance filled the silence. Ethan took a deep breath. I'm sorry, Liam, really. Liam looked at him, searching his face. He wanted to be angry, to make him squirm. But he saw something different. Not guilt for being caught, but shame for being wrong. So he nodded once. Okay. Ethan blinked. That's it? That's it, Liam said. You don't owe me anything. Just treat people better. Ethan cracked a faint smile, the first real one Liam had ever seen from him. Yeah, I can do that. As Ethan turned to leave, he hesitated, then said over his shoulder, Your dad's coming back for the engineering seminar next week, right? Yeah, Liam replied cautiously. Ethan grinned. Good. Maybe I'll actually listen this time. Liam couldn't help but laugh softly. You better. He gives good advice. When Ethan walked away, Liam leaned against his locker, exhaling slowly. The weight he'd been carrying for months, maybe years, had finally lifted. Not because he got revenge, but because someone had learned. That afternoon, as he met his dad at the school gates, Mark smiled the moment he saw him. Good day? Liam nodded. Yeah, better than most. Mark chuckled. Told you things turn around when you keep your head up? They did, Liam said, smiling back. I'm more than you know. As they walked home together, the sun dipped low over Ridgewood, casting long shadows across the pavement. Two figures side by side, neither rich nor powerful, but proud. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Some victories don't make noise. They just make peace. A week later, the gymnasium of Ridgewood High was filled again. Banners hanging, students lined up on the bleachers, teachers chatting near the stage. It was the Engineering Career Seminar, Part 2 of Career Week. Liam sat with his classmates near the front. The energy in the room was different this time, not showy or fake, just curious and respectful. People weren't there to brag. They were there to learn. The principal walked to the microphone. Today, she began, we have a special guest, someone who has been part of Ridgewood longer than most of us. He's not only kept our school running for years, but he's also one of the engineers who helped design this very building. Please welcome Mr. Mark Carter. The gym filled with applause, loud, real applause that echoed across the bleachers. Liam's heart swelled as his father stepped up to the microphone in his clean uniform, the same one he wore every day. But now, everyone saw it differently. It wasn't just a janitor's uniform. It was a symbol of work, skill, and pride. Mark smiled, a little shy under the lights. Thank you, he said. I didn't expect to be up here twice in 1 week. A few students chuckled. He continued. When I first started working here, I used to wonder if anyone even noticed the people behind the scenes. The ones fixing lights, unclogging pipes, checking fire alarms. Then I realized something. It doesn't matter who notices. What matters is that the work gets done right. Because when you do your job with pride, it speaks for you. Silence filled the room. The kind that means everyone's listening. He smiled again, softer this time. Success isn't about how many people know your name. It's about how many people stand on what you've built. Applause erupted again, louder, stronger. Some teachers even stood. Liam blinked hard, pretending to rub his eye, but he wasn't fooling anyone. Near the back, Ethan clapped too. This time, it wasn't forced. His father wasn't there. He'd been too busy, as usual. But Ethan didn't need him. He'd learned more from one janitor in a week than from all his father's speeches combined. After the seminar, as the crowd cleared, Ethan walked up to Liam. Hey, he said, offering a hand. Your dad killed it up there. Liam shook his hand firmly. Yeah, he usually does. Ethan smiled, a little awkward but genuine. You were right, about decency. Liam shrugged, smiling faintly. Took both of us to learn that one. The two of them laughed quietly, not as enemies, not even as rivals anymore. Just two kids figuring out life. Later that afternoon, Liam and his dad walked home together again. The air warm, the streets golden from the late sun. Cars passed, people waved. Some of the same parents who once ignored them. Mark looked down at his son. "You seem lighter lately," he said. Liam smiled. "Maybe because I stopped worrying about proving things to people." Mark nodded. "That's when you start really living." They reached their building, the same small apartment that had always been theirs, and paused by the steps. Liam looked up at his dad. "You know, when I grow up, I don't know what I'll be yet, but I want to be proud of it. Like you." Mark's eyes softened, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Then, whatever you become, you'll be successful." They stood there for a moment, quiet, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops. And somewhere inside Ridgewood High, the floors gleamed under the soft lights, not just because they were clean, but because now everyone knew the man behind the shine.